Rebecca and JW aren't averse to talking because they're each making their own choices. A lot of deliberation went into their decision. It means a lot to me to respect choices and boundaries. By all accounts, JW expressed his concerns in a moving letter. He did, in fact. What he read to me was merely a catalogue of all the things he had witnessed. Hello to everyone in the Lord's kingdom. Joni Lamb's youngest daughter, Becky Lamb Weiss, hasn't exactly been a wallflower. She used to be one of the most outspoken critics of her mother's decisions, particularly regarding her relationship with Dr. Doug Weiss. Before Joni and Doug were married, Rebecca had serious concerns about them, and she wasn't keeping them to herself. Honest and courageous, she was. She boldly declared that it wasn't a good fit for her. Most people wouldn't tell their mom the truth, but she did because she felt something wasn't right. The present day has arrived, and people are starting to take note of something strange. Rebecca and her husband JW have been remarkably silent for the past few weeks. They distanced themselves from the hubbub, and many are perplexed by their quiet. Why was there a shift? What caused the abrupt shift? Especially considering how heated things were between them and Joni a year prior. As a result, fresh audio from a radio broadcast may shed light on the events. No one staged or planned this. What was once a private conversation has been made public. It details an enraged quarrel that Joni had with Rebecca in May of 2023, which occurred only a few weeks prior to the wedding of Joni and Doug on June 10, 2023. Has this talk show shown anything else? That Rebecca persisted, that her emotions were running high, not merely irate but extremely concerned. Joni claims that neither of them made an effort to apologize during their argument. Nothing was hidden by Rebecca. The consequences of her mom's decisions on their family, church, and public perception as Christian leaders were laid bare before her in front of everyone. The reaction from Rebecca wasn't merely an emotional one. Her intention was to demonstrate to her mother that, considering the circumstances, it would be unwise for her to hastily tie the knot with Doug. Just listening to Joni's voice as she recounted the story made you feel the weight of the moment. That wasn't the only issue. Like a daughter fighting for the dignity of her family. The point is that Rebecca snapped. She continued on and on about her misery and how the devil had cast a spell over her, displaying her vicious nature. Neither seeing her grandkids nor posting anything was possible for her. According to her, it is highly unlikely to take place. Yes, it seems like all you do is hang out and share your feelings with each other. At some point perhaps, but not at this very moment. That she was rude, narcissistic, and spoilt was something I did say to her. According to her, you will not speak those words over me. I understand her intentions. They got out of the car, and I attempted to flee the driveway as soon as she started yelling at them. Ash could hear everything. Seeing him was the only reason I came here. I sincerely hoped for that. As I start to back away, she unlocks the passenger door. I asked, please shut the door. Is that what you desire? Is it an accident? I must exit the vehicle, turn around, and secure the door before I park. Standing there are both her and Asher. Please, close the door. I am departing. This is concluded, I informed them. Making a U-turn, I return to my garage. It happens again. The door opens. Before I get in my car and drive away, I exit, turn around, and close the door. Therefore, I was unaware that that was going to transpire. I would have been unaware of how good the first time was if I had known about that meeting. Upon hearing my words, Mom, it occurred to her, you really hurt my feelings by kicking me out of the house. I mentioned, I didn't kick you out of the house. I told you that while I was in Colorado, I didn't feel comfortable with you all going into the house without me being there. She continued to say, well, when you kick someone in the house, they're in the house and you kick them out, right? That's what happened. By the way, I did broach the subject with Jimmy. He mentioned that his annual birthday party is approaching, and she responded with a hum before firmly declining. It was repositioned. She stood up. Is Doug in agreement? Saying, I don't want Doug there, she ultimately decided against it. The situation becomes extremely problematic when he says, if I pay for the party and it's at my house and he's here for the weekend, he's going to be there. Doug Weiss was spending weekends at Joni's house prior to their marriage, according to Joni on the same recording. Pause and consider that for a second. Is it acceptable for nationally recognized Christian speaker Joni Lamb, who is still grieving the loss of her husband Marcus, to have an unattached man spend the weekend at her house? What a terrible thing to do from a religious perspective. A complete prohibition on evil is found in 1 Thessalonians 5:22. The extent to which things progressed is less important than their appearance. For someone in a position of spiritual leadership, there were many viewers who felt the lines were being crossed. According to Joni, she and Doug were already showing signs of affection on previous recordings. Some even went so far as to say they were making out before the wedding. Although it may appear to be an insignificant issue, the private deeds of a Christian television host like Daystar, who travels the nation spreading the gospel, send a powerful message. The backdrop should also be considered. This new relationship began shortly after Joni's husband passed away. Many expected her to deal with her loss in a mature and considerate manner. Instead, she started a new relationship shortly after, which caused her family distress and second thoughts. Rebecca wasn't being over the top at all. She wasn't merely attempting to control her mom's life, or being an obnoxious daughter. She threatened Joni in order to control her and remind her of the values her family claimed to uphold. She yearned to preserve the Christian honesty, morality, and faith-based customs that her father had helped establish. Having this audio in the public domain clarifies a lot of Rebecca's warnings. Details regarding the duration, conduct, and trust breach are beginning to emerge. Family strife is not the only thing happening. It's the result of leaders avoiding responsibility, surrounding themselves with like-minded individuals, and prioritizing their own desires over the needs of the people they are supposed to serve. Not only the lambs, but a growing number of people are taking notice. Additionally, they are closely observing the way spiritual leadership is addressed, or not addressed, on Christian platforms nationwide. Many are praying that the truth will emerge, that the wounded will recover, and that the church will live up to its mission of being holy, humble, and truthful. A passage from John 12:2-3 states, "There is nothing hid that will not be revealed, and nothing hidden that will not be made known. What you said in the dark will be heard in the light." This passage perfectly describes the current situation. The truth is starting to emerge. The fact that you're already making out so strongly? Yes, I don't feel bad about that. We kissed to find out if our feelings for each other were genuine. In my opinion, that is correct. We had a 60-hour conversation in July. It's quite high. With an accusatory question, "Is there something wrong with making out?" I proceeded to kiss Jimmy more than he could handle. Put simply, absolutely not. The fact that Jimmy Evans, a well-known figure in the Christian marriage community, appeared to be content with Joni Lamb and Doug Weiss's relationship astounds many. He was completely unconcerned by Doug spending the weekends at Joni's house leading up to their wedding. It should be remembered that they did more than just drink tea and read devotionals. Supposedly they were getting physical and making out even though they weren't married yet. Those in positions of authority who preach the need of holiness in godly relationships should know better than to do that if they claim to follow Christian principles. Additionally, Jimmy wasn't merely a supporting character. This individual was in charge of an organization whose sole mission was to facilitate healthy biblical marriages. His role was to establish boundaries and serve as a role model. He averted his gaze from her, though. Perhaps he preferred not to cause a commotion. Keeping things amicable with Joni may have been his goal. On the other hand, and this is terrifying, he might have stopped caring. When you defend such behavior while preaching to others about the ideal marriage, you really lose a lot of respect. For that reason, he left his job. Given that he was unable to even enforce his own rules on his friends, how was he ever going to be able to lead that church? Now let's move on to something even more crucial. The recorded conversation between Rebecca Lamb and her mom Joni. That little snippet says a lot, and it's not even about the debate. A mother and her children have a strained relationship, and the presence of pride, power, and control compounds the problem. Saying, "I don't want Doug there," she ultimately decided against it. "If I pay for the party and it's at my house and he's here for the weekend, he's going to be there." That brought about the idea. "I thought you said he didn't have to." "That was something you told me." "I informed you." "I never told you that. That was the information I was about to see. When I confided in Junior about it, he told me, 'You have to take that line down. He's going to be in your family. You don't let her manipulate you like that.' Junior is right. She does it now. That's all she can promise." "Yes, she said you're taking away your 1-year-old grandson's birthday." I responded, "You're taking." I then said, "I'll have it, but you're not going to manipulate me and tell me." "So be it." I agree. It was absolutely insane. During her call to me, he overheard her screaming. We were enjoying ourselves while playing Scrabble, not because she was shouting. Nobody mentioned it. Here you can hear this complete and utter nonsense. No, she wasn't even making an effort to locate her. Shirtless, Rebecca undressed. She's getting very angry and is yelling, I'm going to hold you accountable. You're not being a Christian mom, and this is wrong." I'm not trying to be critical of Rebecca here. I just like her. I just want you to do your best as a mother. Rachel, on the other hand, has been really kind to me. She may not be saying what I believe her to be saying, but I appreciate her kindness towards him. In her hurried passing, Rebecca was being impolite to Doug. "Yes, hello," was all he said. Explain it to me. Explain it to me. Have a peek. By voicing her opinion, Rebecca was not merely seeking to incite conflict. It was as if she were anxious. Concerned for her mom, she perceived things that perplexed her. She wanted her mom to pay attention, so she spoke up. However, Joni did not. It appeared like Joni avoided having frank discussions with her own kids. She chose to surround herself with individuals who consistently fed her own agenda. Nobody could hold her to her word, and they were all in agreement. She felt good about every decision she made, even the bad ones, because of them. The people who should have occupied the utmost priority in her life, her own children, were being disregarded. This is heartbreaking. There was no outsider perspective from which Rebecca and her brothers could see. A relationship existed between them. Given that their mom's decisions had an impact on everyone and were considered sacred, they were within their rights to express their concerns. However, Joni appeared unconcerned with their opinions. She paid them no mind. She acted as if she were superior to them and didn't require their assistance. A remark made by Joni in that recording was particularly noteworthy. She claimed she didn't feel safe leaving Rebecca alone in her home. Although it may not appear significant, it conveys a great deal. Certainly not someone you consider a close friend or relative. Not at all when it comes to a mother and her daughter. Not gaining trust but maintaining power is that person's goal. Their actual distance from one another is shown by this. That kind of separation happens when things like fame, fortune, and venues take precedence over people. To keep her bond with Doug intact, Joni started making up stories as they went along. Even her own children would not stand in her way. Furthermore, the greater the number of individuals who refused to believe her, the greater the incentive to prove them incorrect. Those stories were probably seen by you on the internet. Attempts were made to portray the relationship between Joni and Doug as a lovely, paradisal love tale. God brought them together, and that's how they met. That was out of this world. A joyous love celebration was their goal. But let us be forthright. Beyond the flowery language and emotional marketing, there are some major warning signs that you should pay attention to. The length of the relationship, the physical preparations required before marriage, the need for privacy, and the ability to tune out family concerns all add up. It's also not a fairy tale. It's so chaotic. A humiliating and widely known disaster. Things get really complicated from here on out. Rebecca bursts out speaking right when you least expect it. Everything, including videos, posts, and comments, will end immediately. It's as if she abruptly ended the presentation. For a while, nobody knew why. She ought to have spoken up. The answer is now clear. Rebecca was coerced into signing a non-disclosure agreement, NDA, according to her brother Jonathan Lamb, so she would remain silent about what transpired. To rephrase, she was unable to speak in a legal sense. Joni knew that Rebecca would detract from the impression they were aiming for. The truth would have been a healthy and honest way to handle the family conflict, but Joni decided to offer money in exchange for silence. Remember that. A daughter's attempt to hold her mother accountable was met with corruption, preventing her from speaking the truth. That saddens me and saddens my heart. Rebecca clearly held firm convictions. She spoke out even when it was uncomfortable. Her return. What was it? This isn't your average family feud. It read like a contract or a stop order. It exemplifies the potential consequences of Christian websites adopting a business-like appearance rather than that of churches. In cases where appearances take precedence over evidence, when something is bought with money in order to keep the truth hidden, it raises many questions for us. Some people don't understand what it means to follow Jesus, how to lead, or who is responsible, both in full view of onlookers and in complete solitude. A deeply wounded family is at the epicenter of it all. Young people who don't feel valued. A mother who appears more concerned with safeguarding her preferences than improving her home. The community is on high alert, filled with fear, confusion, and uncertainty about who to trust. But there is certainty about one thing. Silence isn't peace, and control over appearances isn't honesty. Rebecca may be legally obligated to remain silent, but the truth of her story remains significant. It doesn't matter if she can't speak for herself. Others will. Given that this pertains to more than one family, a call to reject lies, defend truth, and refuse to allow those in positions of authority to silence those who preach righteousness. That will never happen in the church as long as leaders prioritize their friendships over truth. Subsequently, we must address far more significant matters. Just for a moment, let's be forthright. There are some things that, no matter how you style them, will always seem off. Additionally, what is happening with Jonathan Lamb? You're right, it is one of those things. There has been a great deal of uproar, controversy, and accusations.
What stands out most is how Jonathan dealt with the situation when he purchased his house. A secret loan was not given to him by her. There was no deal-making going on behind the scenes. Just like everyone else, he went to a conventional bank, completed the necessary paperwork, and conducted business in the traditional manner. Assisting those who were now attempting to distort the story wasn't his responsibility. Power games were not his thing. He made no effort to use his family name or connections to get preferential treatment. That is the essence of candor. Shows determination. Keep in mind that this is the same Jonathan that Marcus Lamb enjoyed. While we're discussing the importance of being truthful, Marcus was not being foolish. He had an intimate familiarity with his son. In him he saw a future. Because of something he saw in him, he felt comfortable in trusting him with Daystar's future, even if things went wrong. We won't sugarcoat it. After Marcus passed away, things began to change. People acted, changed leadership, and tightened control before the man's memory had even settled. Upon her husband's departure, what did Joni do? She started tracking her own son by implanting devices in him. Reportedly, she scolded him for something as insignificant as failing to respond to a happiness email. Right now, that is exactly our situation. In the wake of his father's death, a man struggles to lead while also coping with his grief. Someone is watching him and scolding him instead of helping him. A tragic film that reveals much about the truth behind the scenes. Take a step back and examine the broader context. This goes beyond simple questions like who read their emails or who received a loan. More than just cash is at stake here. Command, authority, and sway are key concepts. In a peculiar way, money reveals people's true desires. Betterment is possible, but trust can be swiftly eroded. In such situations, money can be a weapon. Its purpose is to conceal unpleasant facts, buy loyalty, and keep people silent. It appears that that is precisely what transpired in this case. Take a look at Rebecca Lamb's fate. A cruel social media commenter wasn't all she was. They're related. Her formative years were spent here. She has a good grasp of mechanism. There was a purpose behind her attack as well. Concerned about her mom's relationship with Doug Weiss, she was a nervous wreck. She was told not to speak up, and that nobody would listen to her if she was honest and open. It allegedly occurred with a signed non-disclosure agreement, NDA, and a check. Not via words or affection. Take a few seconds to consider that. A daughter is threatened with silence if she speaks out about her sadness over her family's breakup. That is not a remedy. So much for mending fences. Repairing the damage is what that is. This kind of thing could be effective for a time. First impressions can be deceiving. You silence the most powerful individuals. Overly knowledgeable people are rewarded monetarily. It appears that you are handling everything with ease. Just what are your insights? It is not a genuine item. That's not correct. It is transient. Because, the truth, you may cover it up for a time, but it will eventually surface. A question is being posed by someone. Things are starting to fall into place. What Rebecca said just before she froze is still fresh in their minds. The shift in Jonathan's role is obvious to them. The way stories evolve is visible to them. Finally, all the pieces fit together. Ultimately, the truth will. When this does occur, the fallout is often far more severe than it would have been if all parties had been forthright from the beginning. That is the issue with trust. Everything has broken. When it breaks, fixing it is a huge hassle. Trust is also crucial for Christian leaders. You are being watched. People with integrity, transparency, and honesty are what they seek. Truth, not beauty, please. You have the ability to construct the largest platform. Maximize your wealth. Assemble a support system of individuals who will encourage you. However, it will topple over if the foundation is unstable. That is something from which there is no escape. This family isn't the only one experiencing problems. Here we have an issue involving the heart and leadership. Anyone who puts face value above substance should take note. At the end of the day, what does it even matter? It has nothing to do with dominance, email lists, or who lives in the nicest house. Ultimately, what matters is who walks in truth. Who among us has the guts to do the right thing, no matter how difficult or unpleasant it may be? Despite the potential consequences, who is willing to speak up? Jonathan chose not to do the easy thing. He made no request for a brochure. He refused to back down in order to preserve the meaningful peace. Becky remained silent until absolutely necessary. She struggled for understanding. It's crucial. We on the sidelines also have a responsibility. Above all else, to dig deeper, to ask tough questions, and to be honest. In the end, the truth will emerge, regardless of how much money is spent, contracts are signed, or appearances are made. It does every time. What remains after it concludes is the next question. Have you any opinions? Is there ever a time when this works to conceal something? Is it really necessary, or does it merely heighten the impact of the final collapse?